Hello, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's edition of Tour Pro Talks. A really fascinating conversation I think we're going to have today. I'm Genevieve White, travel and tourism copywriter and coach, and my special guest today is Richard Lindberg, co-founder of One Planet Journey, which is the world's first deep travel magazine. So delighted to have you with us today, Richard. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for being here, and thank you to our audience as usual. Please do say hello, say where you're watching or listening from, and do ask questions as well, because we'd love to hear your thoughts and comments on deep travel. But it's a big, deep subject, and we've only got 30 minutes, so we're going to get started straight away. And I think the first question I really need to ask Richard is, for anyone who's listening who's maybe not very sure what deep travel is, could you begin just by providing a definition?
Yeah, sure. I heard something actually quite recently that I thought was so spot on. And it's like when you stop asking the question of where should I go and instead ask what should I do, then you're on the journey to deep travel. It's basically experience driven. And I also try to put it in the terms of you spend quite a lot of money when you're traveling, right? So I try to see it as an investment, and as such, you want a higher return on your investment, right? So deep travel is getting more out of it, in other words. And to give some examples, so we see deep travel as an umbrella term for other verticals. It could be food, slow travel, which I guess we'll talk about as well, and solo travel is another one, digital nomadism, culture, nature. It's people who travel with an intent, right? It's not just about a destination. You go there, you have a specific interest, and yeah, that's how we see it. You can also imagine it as a spectrum, right? So you can be more of a deep traveler, and it's based on your life situation. Sometimes you don't really have time to spend long periods abroad. You're stressed at work, something you just need to get away, right? So there's different elements to it, but keywords we use is, like I said, intentional, immersive, authentic, sustainable, responsible, as well, and exclusive, right? These are some of the keywords we keep coming back to that overall kind of describes the phenomenon. And I would also say it's mostly a mindset, right? Because we often get this question is, how long do I need to stay, right? Do you have to, because for most deep travelers like myself tend to stay away quite long, but it's not about duration always. It's your mindset, your intent when you're going. You can have a deep experience in one day as well.
Okay. Wow, there's loads to unpack there in that answer. That's really thought-provoking and a brilliant start to the discussion. I'm really interested in what you are saying about starting with the experience, the purpose, rather than the destination itself. So yeah, we can maybe talk more about that in a little minute. But first of all, lovely to see so many comments from people all over the world. So welcome, Charles from Vancouver, Amin from Pakistan, Deborah also from Vancouver. We've got quite a Vancouver posse today. Maral from Stockholm and Masif from Uganda and Suzanne. Goodness me, loads of people. Just hello to all of you. Habiba and brilliant. Okay. Hello, Margot. So thank you so much for joining us, everybody. It's lovely to see people from all over the world, and obviously quite a few people saying hi to you, Richard, probably readers of your magazine, which incidentally, if you haven't had the chance to go and look at the One Planet Journey magazine, just a word of warning, you'll be there for ages because there's so many amazing articles. It's the perfect thing for doing a spot of armchair traveling. And hello, Jan from Norway. Okay, brilliant. So we still got the hellos coming on, but let's get on with some more questions, Richard. I think maybe I think a good way of speaking more about deep travel would be to get under the skin of one of your deep travel experiences. So could you maybe give us one of your specific deep travel experiences and tell us what was it about this experience that really moved you?
I mean, there's so many. I've had the privilege of living abroad in different places and for longer periods of time, of course. And I like keep coming back to the same place. I'm a repeat visitor. So I haven't been to 100 countries. I've been to maybe 50, 60, something around that. But I like coming back to the same places. And one of those places is Egypt. I spent quite a lot of time there. I'm fascinated by Egyptian history and the country also in general. And one of those moments that I always keep coming back to is we were lucky enough to be able to see pyramids that are quite unknown, not the ones in Giza that everyone goes to. They were closed off to the public. There were ongoing archaeological digs. And we managed to go there with experts who were telling us about the pyramid and go inside as well. So it was my Indiana Jones moment, if I can say so, which I really liked. So that is one of many memories that I have that I will never forget from the country. But a more recent one is actually a road trip that me and my wife undertook a couple of years ago, where, because we live in Sweden, the winter is not always so nice. We try to spend some time in, let's say, hotter climates. So it was a 5-6 month road trip where we really got to know the destinations we visited. We stayed a month in each. And that was just a game changer. It was after that trip, actually, that I came back and I said, okay, I need to tell the world about this way of traveling. I'm sure other ones have done it, but that was the intention. And here I am. Planet Journey came out of that trip.
Right. Okay. Wow. So there's loads there that resonates with me. I'm sure is resonating also with the audience. I particularly like what you're saying about these repeat visits, because I think we often are bombarded with these, like, how many countries have you visited type questions, and it's like, your bucket list places to go, and that can actually make you feel like, it can be quite overwhelming, and you can end up thinking there's so many places to visit in the world and I've not visited that many places, so maybe I shouldn't go back and see this place a little bit more. I should go and see somewhere new. So it's really refreshing to hear what you said there about, the worth and benefit of making a repeat visit to somewhere. Okay, just lots more hellos and comments. So here's an interesting comment from Carol. Experience versus destination is what can make tourism sustainable. The bucket list should be connection, not selfies in front of monuments. Well, I'm sure you agree with that, Richard.
Yeah, of course. I mean, because and I think the repeat visit is a good way to get that kind of connection. I personally think that's when the magic happens, right? Because the first time you go somewhere, maybe you are feeling stressed, or there are certain things you have to see. It's understandable, So it's when you come back that you can be more unstressed and really get to know the community, start forming connections, new friendships. And I also think that's a way to, for the destinations themselves, to think about it like that. You're building lifelong relationships with travelers, right? Which is also good for revenue. So it's the age-old question, right? Quantity, quality. What are you after, both from a destination point of view and as a traveler?
Yeah, absolutely. Loads more hellos. Sorry, I'm skipping over them so quickly because there's so many of them. Hello, Evelyn from Madrid. You are welcome, Amin. From Kenya, welcome, Jennifer. And Siham, hello. We remember these experiences that felt unique and led by experts. I think that is very true. Heidi from South Africa and Yali agree, come back to the same place, spend more time and experience. Yep, absolutely. And okay, here's a question from Helene. Okay. Okay, this is interesting, and this it ties in with one of the questions that I was thinking to ask you. So, hello, Helene. I've got a question from Richard. I have to ask about what you said about deep travel being expensive, unless I misunderstood you. I fully agree that traveling is an investment, very much a personal one. However, I do not agree that high costs need to be involved. I'm saying this as a budget backpacker since 2013. So, what do you think, Richard? Is deep travel a premise of the rich, or can it be open to people of all budgets?
It's definitely open to all budgets. It has very little to do with wallet size. Again, I keep coming back to the same word, mindset, right? So I could be having dinner at a Michelin star restaurant one evening. The next evening, I'm eating something insanely fantastic at a street food, a market or a van or something like that. And I get a quality experience out of both, right? So this ability to adapt. You can take accommodation examples also, right? So there are sustainable glamping sites, there are eco lodges that are quite expensive, but they provide something to a deep traveler as well. But you can also do homestays. You could stay at wineries for free and help with the harvest and things like that. Couch surfing is another example. And backpacking, to answer the question here, is an excellent example. And we do have a few articles on the topic and more coming. And I would dare anyone to read some of those articles and say that's not a deep experience, because again, based on the person, but from the articles that we have there, that's an absolutely fantastic example of a deep travel experience as well. So it's who you are, how you travel, what you set out to do, not how much money you're spending. What I usually say is that, because sometimes people ask, who is the typical deep traveler? So sometimes we have to say, yeah, people like to stay longer, but you can stay long as a backpacker. You can stay long, in a short-term rental apartment as well. So it's all up to your travel profile. And that's another thing to keep in mind here. Again, for destinations, for any business that wants to do this, you have to really know your customer, right? There's so many data points now, and we're driven by data points also. If you don't know the person or the customer you're pursuing, you're not going to be able to offer the best type of experience here. So deep travelers, I would say, expect more also. They have specific interests. Like I said in the beginning, you're traveling for a specific purpose. You're not just going to accept anything. You expect more from everyone involved, including yourself.
Yeah. And quite possibly as well, those deep travelers will have done their research as well. So they'll be very well informed, which will again contribute to what they're expecting from a place.
Yeah, but because if you travel and you have a specific goal in mind, it's also about personal development, right? You could be that you want some new knowledge. Maybe you have some wellness perspective to it as well. So that the personal development angle, I think, is very, very important also for deep travelers. The connection to the local community is another. So there's much more demand, right? You have demands as a deep traveler that go beyond, let's say, a normal beach holiday or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, here is a comment from Marhariata. I hope I pronounced that right. I can relate with what Richard talked about. Me with my husband and dog spent 1 year in non-stop travel. We have lived in each place or country during 1 month at least. That's the experience which we really want to share. Wow, that sounds amazing. I wonder where you were, Marhariata. Maybe you could share in the comments some of the places you visited. It'd be good to to hear about them. And here's a question from Andre. How do you quantify the return on your investment in travel experiences?
Well, for me, it's easy. How often do I talk about it afterwards? So this trip we did, the road trip that I mentioned in the beginning of the talk, it's something both me and my wife keep coming back to over and over again. Do you remember that thing we did, or you remember that person we met? I rarely do that with other, let's say, shorter trips that I used to do in the past. I hardly remember them. So that's, for me, one way to quantify it. Memories. Also, you can quantify it, of course, in connections with people that you met while there, friendships that you did or made. So it's very personal. It could be a piece of knowledge, or like we said, personal development type of goals. Maybe you went somewhere at a retreat to do yoga or whatever your interests may be in.
Yeah, lots of excellent points there. And I think what stands out for me is what you mentioned there, is the people and the connections with people. And I think yesterday, actually, if I remember well, you had a post on LinkedIn asking people, if they remembered a special person they'd met during their travels. And for me, that is what really makes a deep travel experience stand out. It's the people you meet when you're traveling, and just your connection and your interactions with them. Now we have a question. You guys, the audience, you're wonderful. You're making my job so easy today. You're coming with all the questions for Richard. So here's another question from Charles. What countries are ideal for deep travel? And he's thinking specifically about infrastructure here. So that's a really interesting question.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's so personal, right? So what is your intent with your deep travel in this case? If you're going to places for, let's say, wellness reasons or things like that, I guess there are certain countries that are more known for that than others, and have the kind of infrastructure or experiences in place for you. Let's say, if you're into yoga, maybe you go to India or related countries. If you're into spirituality, you go to temples in Bali, which we have an excellent article about, for example. But since the interests and the verticals that are so broad, I'm not going to say one country is better at deep travel than another. It's all based on interests and experiences. So you choose your destination based on those as a deep traveler. Like, let's say you're into Roman history. It's not a favorite topic of mine. So the Mediterranean countries are always going to be my personal favorites because of that, right? That doesn't mean I don't travel to other countries, but I keep dreaming about those. Mm-hmm. So it's not. There's no. I'm not going to make a list and say, okay, these are the top 5 countries. We don't like lists at One Planet Journey so much.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Okay, a few more questions waiting in the wings, but I'm going to sneak in one of my questions. But don't worry, audience, we'll get back to your questions in a minute. Something I'm curious about is the difference between deep travel and slow travel, because these are, phrases we hear. And I'm just wondering, is there a difference? And if there is a difference, what do you perceive that difference to be?
Yeah, so the way I see it, or we see it, is that slow travel is a subset of, or an example of deep travel, right? So the slow travel was born or came out of the slow food movement, which I'm sure people are familiar with from Italy, where it's more taking your time, savoring the experience, doing it in an unhurried style. So there you have quite of a pace question is around pace, right? And doing it in a slower pace. Deep travel is not fixated on a specific pace or duration. It goes back to this, what I said with mindset. And I've written some articles myself to give examples of how you can, in this case, spend 1 day in London and still get a deep travel experience out of it. You choose your topics. In this case, I think a cultural day in London, right? So you come there, you already have your knowledge about it, but you want something extra. Maybe it's a cool new exhibition that opened or something, and then you pair it with British Museum or what else. So yeah, that's the difference I see. I mean, they're obviously complementary and there's overlap, but deep travel is a bit different.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. That really answers my question well. And I'm just thinking, listening to you speak there, Richard, I'm thinking that preparation could be a really important part of the deep travel experience, kind of doing the thinking, putting a lot of thought into what your interests are, what your purpose is, and then doing the research accordingly, so that you're very kind of mindful about where you're going and why you're going there.
Mindful and intentional, and it goes back to who you are, of course, but I'm a person that likes to do a lot of prep, so I read books before, during, after the experience, but that's up to different people how they like to prepare. But preparedness, I think you get more out of it, right? What we said about getting a return on your investment, also if you're prepared,
I think
you will get more out of it. And that doesn't mean that everything has to be, scheduled like a military exercise. You still leave room for spontaneity. You don't have to fill your calendar with activities all the time, because these kind of serendipitous encounters, that you will remember even more than anything else. It's important to leave some flexibility also.
Absolutely. And I think as well that's where the repeat visits can come in as well, because you've almost like your first visits, it could be a preparation for subsequent visits. So,
Exactly.
when you go somewhere and you think, oh, it's your last day, and you think, oh, I've just discovered this, but you can you can go into that in more depth next time on a repeat visit. So it's all part of the process. Okay, let's have a look. We have a question here from Yali, but I think you've actually just answered it. How many days you feel you can say it's a deep travel? Well, I think, as you just said, even a one-day trip to London could be considered deep if it's with the right mindset and intentionality. And Amin's asking, is it exciting traveling to the same places over and over? Sounds like he's maybe doubting the repeat visit.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you're, it depends on where you go, of course, also, right? Some places are smaller in size, so there might not be as much to do or see in that case, if you're more interested in doing things like that. But it's so, I can go to the same place like 100 times, so, and I'll be as excited. And I think that brings up another point. People always think travel, it's abroad, but it can also be domestic travel. In your own country, in your own region, there's so much to see, and we often tend to neglect it. Having that kind of curiosity or openness to be excited about something that's close to you that you might have seen already before or not, but I think it's also part of the deep travel mindset. And during the pandemic, of course, at least here in Sweden, we didn't have any lockdowns, but we didn't travel abroad so much, of course. So it was a time to discover, your own backyard, and I had lots of fun here. So.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that was true for a lot of people. Maybe not so much during the pandemic, because there was very strict lockdown in some places, but with the gradual, tightening of restraints, people started to maybe discover a little bit more of their own locales that they hadn't done before. Okay, I'm going to start, maybe move on to a slightly different area that I don't think we've addressed yet. And that was something that we spoke about a little bit when we had our pre-meet before this live discussion. I know something you're very interested in, Richard, is promoting off-season travel. And I wonder if you could say a little bit more about that and how it connects to deep travel.
Yeah, I mean, off-season, this is connected to so many questions. Let's see if we can unpack it in a short time. So, as a deep traveler, you often have freedom to travel at outside the peak season. The peak season, which I've traveled a lot myself in the past, is not conducive to the kind of experiences that I'm talking about today. And the off season is, right? And of course, it also addresses other questions like over tourism and balancing out the season, so that there's a lot of benefits also for destinations and environmental protection, community, let's say, happiness. We've seen the protests, right? So off season means that or low season, which is another word, I guess, means that you can explore the place you're going to in a much more relaxed way. The locals are more chilled as well, so it's more conducive to making those connections that we talked about. It's cheaper if you're looking at financial things as well. It's milder temperatures. We've heard the word coolcation coming up as well, right? So you can still go to those fantastic destinations, but you don't have to sweat in 40 degrees. There is I think there's so many benefits to this, but not all destinations are prepared for it, right? There needs to be more of a discussion and preparedness from certain destinations as well to be able to welcome people and have them, be happy about as well the experiences on offer. And locals also need to accept, that this is a good way to do things. So there's more work to be done on the front, but I think that's a key thing for the whole tourism industry to really balance out the seasons, because the numbers are insane already, and there's another billion people coming to travel as well. So where are they all going to go when we already have these discussions about over tourism and certain destinations turning into some kind of Disney park? So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I think, in principle, that is something that nobody really wants to, as you said yourself in our last discussion, see the Mona Lisa or some other amazing world attraction through the prism of everybody else's iPhone who's filming it. That's just, there's not much worth to be had in an experience like that.
And that ties back to what we talked about with the return on investment, right? Let's say you're really into art and you look forward to your visit to the Louvre like for a decade or years at least, right? And you come there, you're excited, and then you have to start elbowing your way forward. And what is that? That is not a pleasurable experience. You're going to be mad. Everybody's going to be mad about that. And these kind of excessive crowds don't bring out the best in people, myself included. So once I started traveling low season, off season, I can't really see myself going back to the peak. But that's because I have the privilege of not having to. So obviously there you come into another things. If you have to travel during the peak season, maybe choose alternative destinations. That's also something we cover quite a lot in the magazine, right? So we had one this week about the northeast of Brazil. Instead of going just to Rio and Sao Paulo, there are other fantastic places. So there's always solutions here, irrespective of your personal situation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, it goes back again to being thoughtful and mindful, and maybe just doing a little bit of research sometimes as well. I love this comment from Helena. I think this is a really nice one to kind of end our discussion on. The best and meaningful deep travels, in my opinion, is when things do not go as planned, also lacking infrastructure. A bus strike in Peru 2017 had me moving in with a local family in their treehouse restaurant in the cloud forest. All of a sudden, my days consisted of washing clothes in the river, joining school pickups, and helping the kids with their English homework. This you cannot Google yourself to. What do you have to say about that, Richard?
Yeah, how can you not remember that for the rest of your life, right? So this one was obviously quite spontaneous, but you still have to have the right mindset to be able to adapt and make the best out of a situation like that. So it's a really cool deep travel example.
Absolutely, Helen. You obviously just embraced that situation, which it sounds remarkable. Maybe something you could write up and share. It sounds like it'd be a great story. for us to read about in more detail. Anyhow, we are almost at the end of this, what has been an amazing discussion. I don't know about the rest of the audience, but I really feel inspired now to go and plan some deep travel of my own. Okay, I am just seeing a couple of more comments and questions. Okay, I'm gonna, sorry, Richard, would you mind if we just ask one more question? Because I've seen a question here and I don't like to leave people's questions hanging. Mar Hartia again has asked, I think what the question is, how can people who work in tourism involve tourists into the idea of deep travel? Now, I think this is a really important question, this idea of, travel and tourism providers getting the deep travel idea out there. And yeah, it'd just be good to have your thoughts on this.
If you look at deep travel from a travel brand, travel business perspective, or even the destinations, I think the benefits are tremendous, because here you have a chance to attract a type of traveler that is what I would say quality traveler, quality tourist, whatever you want to use, respectful, right? They come with a specific set of interests. They're open. They want to engage with the local community. Again, they will probably want to come back. So you have a revenue aspect as well, right? Building that kind of loyalty with people, both as a service provider, but also the destination itself. So I think you have fantastic opportunities to attract this type of traveler, but you need to prepare the destination. You need to understand how to communicate with these people, what to offer. They want something unique. They expect more. So they're a very, I would say, attractive traveler group. And we see now certain destinations trying to, let's say no to certain groups, and they want another type of traveler. And that traveler is the deep traveler, 100%. They just don't know the terminology yet, but that's who they're after.
Mm-hmm. So it's really digging deep if you are a travel and tourism provider, and figuring out what makes a deep traveler tick. Who is this deep traveler? And then tailoring your marketing to suit them. Is that?
Yeah, it's a lot about, like I said before, about data. You have to really know who they are. You have to combine certain interests. Let's say they're interested in food. Maybe they're also interested in culture. They, create some new experiences that mix and match, make them exclusive, have the destination be prepared for the off season, like we told before, promote alternative destinations in your city to balance out the crowds, use technology to reduce the friction. And I could go on. There are so many things that you need to do and can do. Some are leaning into it, but we need to see this happen all over, I think. Because otherwise you will keep seeing these kind of protests we did last summer.
Mm-hmm, absolutely, which is not good for anybody. Okay, Richard, that was an amazing answer. And if you were listening to Richard and frantically trying to scribble down the big list of ideas he came with at the end there, don't worry, because I will be writing up a summary of our discussion, and I'll make sure to include all of Richard's words of wisdom in the Tour Pro newsletter, which will be out next week, as soon as I can get it written up. There's a lot to put in this one. So today I would just like to say thank you so much. You've been an amazing guest, Richard. With these answers are so thoughtful and illuminating, and our audience today, you've been so lively and engaged. Thank you for all your comments and questions, and thank you all, and enjoy your day, and see you on another Tour Pro Talks very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and I hope to see you at One Planet Journey for more inspiring articles. You can always subscribe or follow me as well for more insights. Thanks.